Now we're on the FBI list. Yeah, I mean, how do I say this nicely? My name is Ray. I'm the strong one, the people's champ, the people's choice, the man, the myth, the legend. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm rejoicing it blew up too. So I'm really excited about it as well. Lots of things to talk about today, but I've got a perspective on things as well, man. Yeah, it's okay. Listen, I'm there. Listen. Well, there's been so much going on in our lives. It happens. That's what happens, man. You know what I mean? Like, listen, dude. There's just been so much going on. Yeah, it happens. I was in my what? Hey, this sure. Did we miss the Roe v. Wade? Did we miss the Roe v. Wade? What? That's- I know. Listen. Hey, listen. I'm all for the hot takes. So that's what plausible foolishness exists for. So I'm ready to rock with this today. So let's not get it twisted. Um, Definitely we'll talk about Roe versus Wade because this is kind of all to me all kind of comes together in one neatly tied bow. And we talked about Roe versus Wade before, even when it remember when this leaked, right? When the original leak of this decision, we had a full show about it. We talked about it and so on and so forth. So the reason why the episode is called Dagon has fallen is for all the in wrestling terms, the smart marks, aka the followers of Jesus that crack open their Bible from time to time and peruse in that thing called the Old Testament and check out a story that comes out of 1 Samuel 5. And it's when the Philistines actually capture the Ark of the Covenant. And they take it, and I think we've talked about it. No, Mike. Roman saying no, Mike. He can't hear us. He cannot hear us. Can you hear us, Roman? What do we got? What do we got? We need that. Okay. Interesting. Roman. I'm sorry. I don't know, dude. You don't want to just hear me anyways. You don't want to hear me anyways. You want to turn it up? Can't hear me. Whaley, what's going on with you, bro? Figure it out, man. It's been one of them weeks. I'm with you, dude. Hey, so you want to try to restart the audio on your side? Okay. But testing, testing. Can you hear him? Deep state, totally involved. You know what's interesting is we go online for 2 seconds to talk about the Georgia Guidestones, and Deep State is already commenting the most in the chat. So I, I've come to the conclusion that Deep State is FBI. I think he's FBI waiting for us to have a coastal moment and freak out a little bit. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. We'll see. But okay, let me. More audio issues. My taxes are always squandered. That's very true. Um, Here's my question for the deep state: for all these mass shooters that just pop up, uh, you know what the FBI tagline is? I saw this meme. It was classic. It was a bunch of kids surrounding Bart Simpson, and they're all like, "Say it, say it." He was on our radar, and everybody freaks out because it's something that is the typical. Well, he was on our radar. Did you stop him? No. And it's like it is funny to kind of watch this happen. Now it's sad, obviously, anytime there's a mass shooting. But what's funny is the most recent mass shooter, like the last mass shooter, magically disappears as quickly as possible when you find out that they're not a conservative. They're really not. They're barely a white guy, and they actually hated Trump. So those mass shooters always tend to disappear really fast, which is funny because it seems to be a trend when it comes to these mass shooters and so on and so forth. But I digress. Say something. Can you hear me?
Test 1 2. Yeah. Somehow, audio was just disabled. Just disabled
FBI,
for no reason.
FBI, the philosopher king, they did not want to hear your sage advice, bro. They don't want to hear you, man.
Yeah.
They don't want the
guess
truth
not.
coming out, bro. But
No,
okay,
they
now that
don't.
we got audio, so for the those who are initiated, we talk about Dagon falling, and from 1 Samuel 5, and again the Ark of the Covenant is stolen. Hearing that Roman is jacked, he's like, yes, I can hear you now, bro. So the Israelites have had the Ark of the Covenant stolen from the Philistines. The Philistines take the Ark of the Covenant to their most holy temple, and they actually put it beside their god Dagon. Okay, and they're excited, they're pumped up. They have the Ark of the Covenant, which is the literal seat of where God sits for. Well, it's where God sat for the Israelites, and they had the. What were the items that were in the Ark of the Covenant? It was the 2 tablets with the 10 Commandments.
Yeah,
It
it's a
was
plate
the
of
staff
mana
of Moses. Yep. Manna
and
and the staff. Go ahead.
Aaron's budding staff. Yes.
Aaron's budding staff. Yep. So those are, obviously holy, to the Israelites at the time. And they celebrate because they took it from the Israelites, and they're going to put it in the temple of their god Dagon. Well, they wake up the next morning to come worship Dagon, and all of a sudden he fell. He's on the ground. There's big, massive statues on the ground. And they're like, well, that's a crazy coinkydink. We didn't feel that earthquake last night. So let's just put Dagon back up where he needs to be. No problem whatsoever. The next morning happens. Dagon's back smash, and now he's laying in front of the Ark of the Covenant with his hands, and I think his face was smashed too. Or was it just his hands?
I'm not sure. I think
So,
just his hands.
his hands were smashed, and he was literally bowing before the Ark of the Covenant. Needless to say, having the Ark in their city caused them a ruckus to the point where they're like, Israelites, come take this, get rid of this crap. So they try to take
They
it from
started
town to
getting
town.
sick too.
Yeah.
They ended up taking it to other towns, and the people in the other towns got sick.
Yeah. So they're like, yeah, we don't want this in here. But the point is, Dagon, who is their supreme being, bowed before Yahweh. Even when it looked like the Israelites were weak, which they were at the time. I think was Saul king at the time? Was Saul being a little softy king at the time? Or was it still Samuel as a judge?
I think it was still Samuel. I think it was still
Okay.
a period of
But
judges.
it looked like a bad time, right? The Israelites are losing to the Philistines. They took the Ark of the Covenant, and God steps in and smashes Dagon. There's a lot of ramifications to this. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is really simply this. My eschatology has been challenged. I'm having that eschatology challenge, right? I grew up in the days of Left Behind. Remember the Left Behind books? Good old
Definitely.
Left Behind books. James Cameron movie that was horrible.
Not James Cameron,
Yeah,
Kirk Cameron.
Cameron. Yeah, sure. Same. Yeah, they both suck. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. James Cameron's the director.
Yeah, he's the terrible director of Titanic and Avatar. And then the
Uh,
great director of True Lies and Terminator 2.
yeah, I think if you make Terminator and you make True Lies, is it really him or was it Arnold carrying it?
I don't know. They're both excellent movies. And to be honest, like, the visuals of Titanic and Avatar are great. The
Matt,
stories and, my thing with James Cameron is how lauded he is as this, like,
but time out of
gift
this.
to filmmaking,
Let's go back to that last comment you made about Titanic. It's not Pride Month. You don't have to keep this up anymore, okay? It's all good.
I hate Titanic. I saw it once and it was like, why did I watch that? And I know people I was in high school when it came out. And there was a girl in my class who saw it like over 11 times in the theater. Just to watch Leonardo DiCaprio be just amazing. And that for a long time turned me off to Leonardo DiCaprio. I was like, I hate that guy. I don't want to watch anything he's been in.
He's a good actor, though. I hate to say it.
Yeah, he is. He is.
He's good.
Catch Me If You Can is what changed my mind on him.
Yeah, Wolf of Wall Street. He's phenomenal. Freaking The Remnant. Did you ever see The Remnant?
No, I haven't seen The Revenant. No.
Oh, dude, Revenant is a good movie. Like
Django Unchained.
Yeah, Django Unchained. I mean, yeah, the dude. So I'm not gonna diss him. That's long story short. Kurt Cameron was in this crappy Left Behind movies and so on and so forth. And at any moment Jesus is coming back, and we're all gonna get raptured out of here, and we don't have to worry about anything. You know what I mean?
Deep State says, "I'm king of the world." Yeah, he's got a point. He is kind of.
Yeah, I mean, he's that dude. He's that good. Now,
it's more administrator of the world, but whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, long story short is I was taught Jesus is coming in every second, and every bad headline that I would see in the newspaper was just more proof that Jesus is coming tomorrow. Now, is Jesus Christ coming back? Abso-freaking-lutely. Now, what's been told to us forever and ever and ever and ever, with very weak biblical precedent, and again, I'm not dissing premillennial, eschatology, blah, blah, blah. Not. I just have a really hard time finding it in the Word of God. But it is what it is. I'm not going to diss people, okay? Now, with that being said...
Wait, are you challenging the special revelation given to Tim LaHaye?
Listen, dog. Yeah, I am. But
because it was the same special revelation given to John Nelson Darby in 1945. So
special.
Whatever.
Well, yeah,
and then it had never been talked about before that in all of church history.
Yeah,
but
because here's the thing that's always interesting to me is the verse that's very, very hard to beat is that Jesus comes back when every enemy is laid before his feet, the last being death. The last being death. Okay.
The one that was hard for me, was when he was talking to a crowd of people.
Yep.
And he told them, "This generation shall not pass away before the things that I have told you come to pass."
Yep.
But Darby and LaHaye tell us he wasn't actually talking to them. He was talking to us. Our generation is the one. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Why would he tell that to a group of people? Why would he lie to a group of people?
He wouldn't. Because Jesus doesn't lie. because the kingdom is the moment that he resurrects. That's when his kingdom. He's in his kingdom right now. We're in the
And
kingdom. Period. Go ahead.
well, let me tell you, the LaHaye version of things does tie everything up into a nice little package if you ignore some of the glaring things like that.
Yeah. If you ignore.
But, and so, like, once you realize that, okay, this package is too tight, too nice, and but I'm also ignoring, these things sticking out of the wrapping paper.
Yeah.
Then Revelation becomes really messy, because then you're like,
Yep.
okay, what's happened? What hasn't happened yet?
Yeah.
What is to come?
Yeah.
What's apocalyptic language? What is tied to the Old Testament? There's so much.
Yeah.
The deep dive is so deep that it's like, I don't know if I want to swim that far.
Yeah. But
I'm a little tired already.
But that verse to me always stood out to me because I couldn't get away from it, right? You can't get away from the Bible literally saying that every enemy will be put before Jesus's feet, death being the last one, okay? Before he comes back. All right, so with that eschatology, you're not going to look at a newspaper article and see something bad, because that's all they do is talk about bad and think Jesus is coming tomorrow. And then you're going to start thinking that the world is Jesus's Vietnam. He just can't, the Son of Man just can't figure it out. He just can't overcome. You know what I mean? Which is hilarious if you think about it. But that is the eschatology a lot of people have. And I'm not dissing people for having that. It is what it is, though. I mean, because at the end of the day, can we really put a thumb on the end times? No, because only God, Jesus even said that God only knows the time when this is all coming down, right? But if every enemy is being laid before Christ's feet and death being the last, that would presume that Jesus is winning, right? I'm assuming that, right?
That's a good point.
If we look at totality of history and not just American history, because even American history kind of points to, dare I say, a post-millennial thought process and view, because let's get real, when we started this country, we did have slaves. Now we don't. Slavery got beaten, okay? We did have a civil war, paid it in blood for all the sin that was there, and we overcame it and somehow stuck together. Then we still had, racial inequity until the civil rights movement. That got defeated too. Inequality, right? Got defeated. In between those times, there was a guy called Hitler. I don't know if you heard of him before. He killed a lot of people. He was evil. He got defeated. Stalin, he himself didn't get defeated, but history defeated him, right? Like, all these evil forces keep getting defeated over and over and over again. So when we take history in its totality, not just the 240, what are we at? 244 or 246 years of American history, and we actually go back farther. Let's go back to when Jesus shows up. How many Christians are in the world when Jesus shows up? The answer is 0. How many Christians are on the planet now? Lots more. Okay,
hundreds of millions, if not around a billion, maybe.
Yeah, right. So we're talking about a guy we're talking about God shows up, picks 12 dudes, and from those 12 dudes, we're talking about billions of followers at this point. One might say that's improbable. Could we say that? It's improbable for a carpenter, aka a mason, or a guy who works in the stones, who comes from Nazareth, which was the butt of all jokes in Jerusalem, shows up, lives an absolute perfect life, dies on a cross for every single sin, and does this crazy thing called come back. I'm back. Over 500 witnesses attesting to this. All 12 of his disciples, 11 of his disciples dying for that cause because they knew it was true. and grows to over 1 billion followers.
Why
One might
is
think
it
that's
that the Slim Shady song works so perfectly with the resurrection?
what do you mean?
Guess who's back? Back again. Christ is back. Tell a friend.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
that's true.
it goes all the way into the Great Commission.
It's true.
It's
It's true.
amazing.
Now, with this mindset, right, going from 0 to over 1 billion, we would make the assessment that things are getting better. I would make that assessment.
Yeah, I mean,
Now, here's another crazy thought. How was the standard of living when Jesus Christ shows up on the scene versus now?
way better.
Have we made any inroads with civil rights, freedom, uh, uh,
Poverty.
property, prosperity,
No, I said
medicine,
poverty.
technology? Huh?
Poverty, I said.
Yeah.
Capitalism has made such significant strides against poverty. So many people, at least a couple billion people, have been pulled out of poverty. There's still people in poverty, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in the modern world, billions have been lifted out of poverty because of capitalism, because of the implementation of capitalism, because
Well, just
of
think of
the Western ideal being implemented in their world.
yeah. Think of
And
the
what is
very
one of the
idea.
pillars of the Western ideal? Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
What is one of Christianity?
Yeah. Judeo-Christian values. That's the morality of Western society, the philosophy of the Greeks, and the governance of the Romans. So, yeah, I'm with you on there, dude. And here's the reality. Just think of basic things here. Class systems essentially are destroyed in the West. Think about it. If you think
Yeah, there's
about,
really
because
only two classes now.
Yeah, it's true. New
There's
World
the
Order and everybody
elites who
else.
are still trying to enact their evil on the world, and then there's
Yeah,
the rest of us, whether we know it or not.
true. Kings and queens. Think about that concept, how much it's eroded since Christ. Think about that.
Yeah.
The concept of kings and queens eroded, right? There's a lot of things here that are completely different and better than they were before. So for me, as a pan millennialist, because I think it's all going to pan out in the end, but I don't think that I'm going to get Kirk Cameron out of here in 2 seconds. Okay. But what I will say is this: I keep seeing God do what God does. He always wins in a way that nobody can take glory for it, right? And we talked about this on the show, the Roe versus Wade show. There is no Republican power at the federal level right now. None. None. Not House power. The Senate's at a 50-50 split with the tiebreaker being Kamala, right? And you've got Joe Biden. It's so hard to say. Joe Biden is the president who allegedly got 81 million votes, but I'll leave that alone for right now, okay? But all of the godless Democrats, and trust me, there's godless Republicans too, but they're way more godless. The baby butchers, the Moloch worshippers themselves got kicked square in the balls a couple weeks ago. Just square in the balls. And not a single Republican can take credit for it. Think about it. Now, you could give credit to where credit's due, right? You could say, hey, Trump appointed the judges that made that happen. Absolutely. Trump's only president because God allows that to happen, period. God picked a reality TV star to become our president for 4 years. Hopefully another 4 years. I want the revenge tour secretly, okay? I go back and forth every day. One day I'm like, Ron, and then one day I'm like, Trump, and today's a Trump day, okay? You caught me. I want the revenge, okay? But he appointed 3 justices that would overturn Roe versus Wade. You think good old Bush would have done that? Do you think any Republican in your life, Daddy Bush or son Bush, would have done that? Absolutely not. But guess what? God uses a whoremongering, egotistical psychopath to enact judges that would do this. And he's not there to get the credit, which is almost like a humble pie for Trump, right? It's like, dang it, I helped do that, but whatever, right? But God gets the glory because there's no power on the right, and that got smashed. And then another executive order, or not executive order, but another ruling on gun rights in New York got smashed. And then prayer was defended in public schools. Like this is the most and then the EPA. The EPA got neutered a little bit too, so like they can't get into private businesses and tell them what to do. It's mind blowing. All the conservative style decisions that have happened in a blue government, and God gets the glory for all that. And then on top of that, on top of all that fun, this is going to be too deep for this show, but they try to fire up the CERN again, and a weasel apparently goes in and f's it up, which is hilarious to me, by the way. Okay. And then the next day after the CERN debacle, we won't talk about that too. It's way too deep in the rabbit hole for this audience. But the Georgia Guidestones just blew up. The pillar that was in English blows up at 4 a.m, and nobody's there. Now.
Yeah. And then
go ahead.
You mean the stones that were put up in the middle of the night?
Yep.
And nobody knows where they came from, really?
Nobody knows the organization. Nobody knows the person who puts it up. Now, why in the world would a conspiracy fool like me be in favor of the stones blowing up? Because I could do the thing that everybody's doing right now and be like, oh, we don't condone violence. We don't want statues coming down and blah, 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 blah. Sorry, you guys literally lost that with me when you started taking down Christopher Columbus statues and Thomas Jefferson statues. So if it goes the other way, I'll just mock you. So here's the beautiful thing. I approve. So that being said, we just got demonetized. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. But the very first tenet of the Georgia Guidestones, and tell me if you find this a little fishy, is to maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. How many people are in the world?
7 billion.
Almost 8 billion people now. And I know most people got Common Core math in here, okay? Public school education, not dissonant if you went there. But is a million bigger than a billion?
Yeah. No.
No. A billion's more.
No.
So if there's 7 to 8 billion people on the planet right now, and this stone that just magically erects in the middle of Georgia, and the longitude and latitude is very interesting. It's like a 666 and a 333, blah, 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 blah. I digress. I'll leave that one alone for right now. That's a little too much for this audience, but I'm just being real here, right? And essentially, it's called the New World Order Manifesto, the Globalist Cookbook. And I mean that pun literally in light of Twilight Zone. To serve man, it's a cookbook. But maintain humanity for 500 million in perpetual balance of nature. That means, kiddos, you'd have to reduce our population by 94%.
So that's 6.5 billion dead.
Yeah. Because that's what's best.
It's only a little bit of genocide. It's only a little bit of genocide.
Now, it shouldn't surprise anybody who's aware, but that would require people to get killed.
Yeah.
That would require people to get, I don't know, aborted in the womb. That would require, boys to get sterilized through soy. And I won't even talk about those little injections they gave us all last summer. Wouldn't want to talk about that here either.
Non-binary says, breaking news, Pfizer is now recommending a 4th booster to those who haven't died yet.
Yeah, 100%. That's good advice, right? Uh, I, I mean, geez, I don't know. The military-industrial complex that continually, perpetually has bombings throughout the Middle East all the time. I'm sure they want what's best for everybody, right? Best for humanity.
Definitely,
Correct.
definitely.
Violence and upheaval, war. I mean, I'm sure none of those things at all um, would ever contribute to this ideal that the globalists have. Now, here's the thing. Um, the very fact that Dagon falls, aka the Georgia Guidestones fall, Moloch gets kicked in the balls. I can't help, Matt, but think there's patterns to everything. You know what I mean?
Yep.
God shows up, reveals himself, tells people, hey, I'm God. This is who I am. I made you and created you. Adam and Eve said, hey, we love you. Oh, you're the best. But we want to make ourselves gods. So we'll listen to the serpent. Oh, geez, here we go. Right? Then, Genesis 6 rolls around and the angels thought, hey, I'm smarter than God. I'm going to go bang some chicks. I'm going to make some giants. I'm going to pollute everything that's going on. God said, oh my gosh, here we go. I'm going to have to clean this mess up. Start over again. And there's a perpetual cycle of either people elevating themselves to God or worshiping idols that try to become God. Moloch worship is strong in America. It's called the abortion angle, right?
Yeah.
Dagon might be strong too. Since he's trying to clean the house and clean us out of here, you know what I mean? Because we're worshiping Gaia and nature, and we can't have humans around to be in the nature that God made for humans to subjugate, but that's another story for another time, right? But it's funny that all of these things, like the CERN magically not working, right? I mean, I wouldn't want to refer back to Tower of Babel or trying to reach God. That would be too crazy for this podcast, but that's another story for another time. But what I'm trying to get at is this. The old gods are flailing. And God's still on his throne. And he uses a weasel to crush CERN. He uses some magic bandit in the middle of the night to take down the Georgia Guidestones, which was funny because they haven't released any footage of the person putting the bomb there. I'm sure they have that, right? Correct?
Say that again?
I'm sure they have the footage of somebody placing a bomb there to blow it up, correct?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything.
Right?
Hmm.
You got a Supreme Court that, isn't really for God, ruling for God. It's almost like, now this is a crazy thought, Matt. This is crazy, but God might be in control.
Oh, whoa. Can't go around saying things like that.
I mean, I know that's controversial. I know that might get me called a weird words. Darn. Conspiracy theorists nowadays.
Yeah. Someone might disagree with me. My validation.
Let's get real. God's in control. Now, with the Georgia Guidestones, to be fair, some people think it's an inside job. Okay.
Damn right, JBN.
What'd he say?
Damn right. He said, I don't know. It's plausible. And I said, damn right it is.
Listen, I don't want to be too conspiratorial because it might scare some people, you know? You know what I mean? But what I'm trying to say is this. Could the Georgia Guidestones be an inside job? Sure. I heard you know exactly what I did when I heard about the Georgia Guidestones. I went to two people to see what their response was, right? Brother Alex Jones, I had to go see what he had to say. Fired up the Rumble. I wanted to know what Alex had to say. And Alex is like, listen. I don't condone the actions. But whoever did it, I appreciate that you waited till 4 o'clock in the morning so nobody died. And I appreciate what you did. I understand the sentiment. You know, I kind of wanted to do that years ago. But here's the thing: we need that up so that people can have an actual visual of what the New World Order looks like. And I'd rather you had made a video stating this is what the New World Order is trying to do. Okay, now that's the 33 degree Mason coming out of Alex Jones. I get it. One of his buddies' statues went down. Okay, I get it. Now that being said, he has a point. It sucks, but he has a point. But here's the thing that I always think about, right? If we're going biblical and we're going old school, what's the first thing God asked Gideon to do? Groves and rip down the Astaroths.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Get rid of that crap. I don't care if it's your dad's.
Yeah, the
These
high
idols
places.
are not going to be. Yeah, get them out of here. Get
Mhm.
these idols out of my face." Could somebody say an idol to the globalists probably needs to come down? I'm okay with that.
Me
Just
too.
saying. Went to Mark Dice, and Mark Dice was broken up about it. He was like, "Oh, no." Nobody's really sad about this, okay? Because here's the thing: truth be told, it does make the globalists a little nervous because they're like, wait a minute, they're starting to figure this out. So it might be better for them to hide in the shadows, so they're kind of okay with it. But it is interesting that we have the demonic forces of the world have provoked people of God so much to the point where they're like, screw this, I'm blowing up your idol. And I'm ripping down this grove. I don't want it here.
Yeah.
And Matty, man, I'm not going to lie. I'm okay with it.
It's what needs to happen.
Uh,
Well, like,
I'm okay with
so
it.
my brother and I, we had 6 hours in the car together, talking politics and all this stuff, and he's been cracking open that Bible big time too, as have I. But and he's we the discussion we've been having is one of, are we are we living through a condemnation moment in America, or a redemption moment? Because now, God is not beyond a redemption moment where I mean, like you said, he does things to glorify himself.
Yep.
And so, when it looks like nothing good can be coming, he wins. And
Yep.
it's like, how? Because he's God, and or this is all just, we're on the path to the extinction that we all seem to want.
Yeah.
And maybe not all of us. There's always a remnant,
Yep.
but the majority, and when you look at the media, it looks like it's the majority. Looks like it's pride parades and abortion, pro-abortion protesters left and right. If they're not, if it's not BLM burning down a city,
Yep.
but even then, BLM has been outed as a corrupt organization.
Getting cast
You
down,
know?
my friend.
And abortion has been overturned. So, we're having this discussion. He sends me the video of the Georgia Guidestones, and he's like, a redemption moment or a condemnation moment? And I said, a turning from wicked ways, maybe?
Yep.
Because there's that verse, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and heal their land. I mean, people are waking up. The election, the selection, was the wake up moment for my brother. I mean, he'd been a Christian, but he hadn't been
initiated,
living it to the fullest.
I gotcha.
For what would be considered pretty darn good reasons, but that's personal. I'm not going to go into that. You know, that's for him to tell.
Sure.
But you know, but he hung on to his faith, but he just didn't, you know, practice it strongly.
Okay.
And then he watched this election, and he was like, "This country's going to hell in a handbasket. I need to get my crap together." And he started reading the Bible every day, and he started praying, and it's changed him significantly.
Amen.
And yeah, I mean, praise God. And he says that he talks to people that have had the exact same experience. And if that microcosm is just a small sampling of a macrocosm in this country, we might see a healing coming. Let's pray for that.
Yep.
You know, absolutely. You know, let's not get full of ourselves and think and automatically call it, you know.
Yeah.
Redemption. Woo! Let's party. No.
True
That's
that.
hubris, and God resists the proud. But let's humble ourselves and pray and turn from our wicked ways and let God do the rest.
So,
You know? That doesn't mean that we don't have to get involved. But what does that look like? Well, it definitely looks more local than federal, as the founders wanted it to be. But, I mean, it's pretty simple. Humble yourself. Pray. Turn from wickedness. I mean, I think we do see a lot of people awake. The question is, do we see the birth of new ours? You know? Are we seeing... What's that?
I don't think it's that. I think that people at this point, I think this is actually a good state of things. I think that a lot of the people that are going to be a part of this red wave have never voted Republican ever in their life. Okay? Because let's get real, a lot of those people that will be voting this round and in 24 didn't vote in the original election, didn't vote in 2020. Let's get real with ourselves. You know, they just didn't do that. To think that Biden got 81 million votes is laughable. It's like the New World Order's thing is to shame you. Like, if you accept their lie, like, they're winning. And I could say that about a million different things, but I will, again, for this audience, it'll get too crazy for some of the I'll go way over the deep end for some people, but I'm just, it's funny watching people accept certain things, right? Like the new thing is eating bugs. Do you really think the New World Order or the globalists are going to eat cricket steaks?
No. They'll get Nicole Kidman to do it once.
Yeah. It's a shame and humiliation tactic. It's why, look this up if you don't believe me. Every prominent black actor, every one of them dresses up as a girl and acts gay in at least one of their movies. Every one of them.
Every who?
Every prominent black actor in Hollywood dresses up as a chick or at least does a gay scene in Hollywood. Every one of them. Without fail. Every single time. Oh, dude. Will Smith, in one of his first movies, he was literally having sex with a guy. I forget what movie that is. It's either It's like The Legend of Something, blah, blah, blah. It was one of his first movies. Okay. Jamie Foxx,
The
one of
Legend
his
of Bagger
characters.
Vance.
Yes. Just look, oh, don't look it up, but Will Smith gay scene. It's one of his
Okay.
very first movies. Just be cautious. It's basically a bedroom and he's like running out, like, oh, no, caught with a guy. It's gross. Jamie Foxx. There's a lot of rumors about, you know what I mean? 6 Degrees of Separation, Roman Nightly says. Might be the movie. I'm not sure.
Mm.
It's one of his first movies. Um, a lot of the guys that are getting outed out of like that are blacks specifically in Hollywood are because they refuse to do it. Dave Chappelle is a perfect example. Remember, he told us that Dave Chappelle went nuts. He went to Africa. He got high on drugs, so on and so forth. Blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And that none of that was true. He said, "Screw it. I'm going to freaking Yellow Springs, Ohio, and I'm not going to play your rules. I'm not going to do this." I posted a video of Debo. You remember Debo from Friday? The big like intimidating bad guy from Friday, the movie Friday.
Oh yeah,
He's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's Zeus in No Holds Barred, and you know he's a bad guy in everything. Okay, he's hilarious, right? He's in Dark Knight. He's the black guy that throws the
Yep.
bomb. Okay, there's a video of him. He's like, yeah, I would be more prominent in Hollywood, but I won't do gay stuff. I won't do it. And they always want me to do stuff. You know what I mean? They always want him to do something. It's a humiliation thing because it's an abhorrent behavior because the Bible is very clear about it. It's an abomination. It's a humiliation. Romans 1 is incredibly clear, right? To
Yeah.
get to that level, you have to have a debased mind to go there. And God gives you up for those evils because you've just rejected God outright. And the globalists will always do this. It's a humiliation thing, right? There are things that we accept as common knowledge that are completely false. And every time you accept that, you are accepting a humiliation tactic from those people, if that makes sense. Satan does this all the time. It's kind of, yeah, you know what I mean? Long story short is this: God is in control. We believe wholeheartedly on God's word. God's word is clear, it's true, and it's real, no matter what the world says. If the world says that you need to dress up like a girl, that's not what God says. What does the word say? It's despicable for a man to dress up like a woman. Let's get real, right? Like we see this over and over and over again. But my point is this. This is my point. The globalists will not stoop to the things that they want us to do. Does that make sense? Would they butcher their babies? Probably, but let's get real, not really. But they want you to kill your kids. Would the globalists give up their house for nature? Absolutely not. Want a perfect example of that? Look at good old Obama, right? Obama for years told us that global warming is going to kill us and gasoline's horrible. We talked about this on our last show, right? But magically, he has a place in Martha's Vineyard right up next to the coast.
Did he spend
So much
millions on?
spent millions on it. So much for those rising waves. And then he puts a 250 gallon propane or natural gas tank on his property. Well, I thought fossil
Isn't it
fuels were
like
bad.
2,500 gallons?
Yeah, it was something it's
Massive.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But these people do not believe the things that they're saying. Okay, they don't. But they think if they say it long enough and loud enough that you'll buy into it and you'll fall for it, right? So, again, my point is this. Long story short, I think that to your point, Matt, I honestly think that it's not about people turning Republican. It's not
The
about
awakening
people
that's happening.
red. Yeah, I don't think it's that. I think that people, and I'm actually glad about this, were so pissed about what they saw from the Republican Party under the Bushes which was basically globalism. And then they saw another worse version of it under Obama, that Trump was such a, I don't want to say breath of fresh air, but an actual president that actually wanted what's best for the country. It threw off the entire system because you got to think about this. We have been progressively going more global and more globalist since Reagan, right? That has been literally the path of the United States from Bush to Clinton, Clinton to Bush, Bush to Obama to Trump. This is the first president that wanted Americans first, which is abhorrent to a globalist system, right? They don't want that. And the thing is, the people that are voting for Trump or voted for Trump and will be voting for Trump again were alive for the Bushes. I remember the Bush days. They weren't good. Okay? They weren't. How many of your friends went to Iraq and Afghanistan to chase weapons of mass destruction that weren't there? And then you're told that the black guy that's really cool that can shoot a basketball is going to take you out of those wars. And he doesn't. He actually doubles down and triples down. And then you're told that there's going to be, but the president's so cool, things are going to be great. And the economy didn't really do anything. It just kind of hung around forever. And then all of a sudden, the guy that they told you was racist, homophobic, evil, blah, 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 comes in, kills it, and brings peace and prosperity all across the board. No new wars, more jobs for minorities than any time in history, record unemployment, and prosperity. And they sold you a bill of goods that he's just horrible, he's terrible. They rig an election and then put the guy that they really want in power in charge. And it all falls to crap in less than 2 years. Has Biden even been president for 2 years? Think about that. He hasn't. So all these people that are going to vote in this midterm and in 2024 have been alive for the Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden years. And they're like, wait a minute. I think there's this thing called globalism. I think there's this thing called the New World Order. I think there's a nefarious plot against us. And if you're trying to reduce a population to 500 million people, that means 94% of us have got to go. You line up 10 of us, 9.5 of us got to die. Okay? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that. But long story short, that's where we are. So I don't think it's so much people jumping in the Republican Party because guess what? People hate Cheney. They hate Liz Cheney. They hate Mitch McConnell. They know all the people that suck. People are not buying the Fox News thing anymore. Okay, the only people that are doing that are the age demographic for Fox is like 55 plus. Okay, let's get real. Yeah. You and our generation, we know they're full of it. We have eyes. And there's only so long you can tell people not to believe their lying eyes before they're like, I think you're full of it. I think you're a perpetual gaslight, and I don't have to listen to this crap anymore.
Yeah, I don't have to looks at Sean Hannity and goes, his endorsement of Dr. Oz completely changes my mind on somebody whose rise to stardom came through Oprah, who clearly loves America and has nothing but good things to offer to the people.
Yeah.
Because Sean Hannity said so.
Yeah, Sean Hannity. Dude, it's funny watching him implode versus Tucker. Like, even Laura Ingalls beating him now in ratings. Did you see that?
Jeez.
He's not, the juice is not there anymore because people know. When you're sitting there promoting Dr. Oz, you're promoting Dr. Oz, who's not a Republican. As a Republican, you've screwed the pooch. Sorry, you're out of the game. And when you got Tucker over there on the other side saying, don't trust anybody, don't even trust me, look it up for yourself, versus,
but what's disturbing about that is that Trump is there endorsing Dr. Oz, listening to
Exactly.
Sean Hannity.
Exactly. And that's the problem, right? It's like, again, listen, you're not going to have wisdom if you don't have Christ Jesus. Jesus can use Nebuchadnezzar,
Or at least
okay?
not complete wisdom.
Yeah, you're not going to have it. How do you have wisdom if you don't fear God? You know what I mean? Now, do I think that Trump can be saved? I think so. Do I think he's saved? No. I mean, I just don't. I don't think that at all. But what I do know is that the dude did keep America first, you know. And I heard a good argument about the vaccine thing, which, you know, we're already running over time, so I don't want to blow people up with that. But the reality is this: every mistake that Trump's made has been in the best interest of America. Now, everybody says that, but let's get real. The Biden mistakes, none of them are in the best interest of America. They're in the best
They don't
interest
even
of
call them mistakes.
Nope.
The news media doesn't even call them mistakes. They just defend them.
Yep.
We're the ones calling them mistakes when we know that they're actually intentional.
But because this thing is like Trump pre-COVID, the best president I've ever seen, ever
Yeah.
experienced in my life. Period. I think Trump completely botched COVID, not because he did the wrong things about COVID, but he literally handed his power over to Fauci.
Yeah.
Think about that. And he let Fauci dictate the terms. Fauci is a globalist. Of course, every remedy that he's going to have for this mystical flu is going to be something that globalists want. Globalists want your kids to almost be autistic. There's a 300% spike in autism in America since the lockdowns. There is a 300% increase in kids that cannot speak because of the lockdowns. You have a spike in kids committing suicide because of the lockdowns. Fentanyl and overdose deaths exploded during the lockdowns. I've said it a million times on this show. I don't know a single person that died of COVID. Not a single human being. I don't know a single person. And I'm not saying that because I'm a hermit and I know 3 people. I know some people who know some people who know some people. I don't know a single person that died from COVID. I do know guys that died from overdoses because they couldn't get out because they were locked down in their house. Just saying. Now, that being said, I think that Trump could have done better there, right? I hope that Trump acknowledges that, and I hope that DeSantis calls him on it. I hope he takes him to the cleaners on that, honestly. I hope that in a primary, DeSantis looks at Trump and be like, listen, I loved everything you did. What happened in the last year? Why did you give all your power to Fauci? The guy was a moron. Why didn't you stop him? And Trump's going to have to answer that hard question, right? And I hope he does, because it's accountability, right? Let's get real. But back to your original point, though, Matt, I think people are awakening to the fact that that it's not R&D anymore. It's not. It's globalists and everybody else. Because here's the thing: when you got an idiot like Gavin Newsom running ads in our state, like, "Oh, come to California, we're free,"
What a
and
fool.
nobody buys it because they're like, "That's funny. You can't even get a U-Haul in your state because everyone's leaving to our state in Texas." So talk about freedoms. You locked everyone down for almost 2 years for the flu, and you didn't
Yeah,
even
he has the
follow your own stuff.
audacity. He has the audacity to claim that Florida doesn't care about freedom of speech and you know, liberty and all that crap. And it's like,
Yep.
what world? What world do
In the
you live in, and what world do you think we live in?
well, that's the thing. It's like, if that's true, why is everyone leaving your state? Why have you lost House representation in the House? Why is Florida gaining representation in the House? Because people are smart. Like, people are not falling for the propaganda anymore. They're not.
No.
Either side. I don't think that Dick Cheney ever had America's best interest at heart. I don't think Liz Cheney has America's best interest at heart.
No.
I don't think that Mitch McConnell has the best interest of heart. I think Mitch McConnell is really good at one thing, and that's getting reelected. and he's
Yeah.
seeing
He
his
has
base is
his
shit.
own interests at heart.
Yes, yes,
They all do.
100%. But what I can respect is the guy who had a net negative on his almost billionaire status with money to come get abused by our by DC, the swamp, and freaking the media. That's all designed to go against him, to lose net worth, to make things better for everybody else. I can respect that because I can see that sacrifice,
And then
but I don't
somebody
see that
who
violence.
wants round two.
Huh?
And then he wants round two.
And he wants to do it again. And he's like, okay, bring the noise. I'm ready to do this again. I can't wait for the revenge tour. It's going to be on like Donkey Kong, man. But that being said, the longest winded answer that I've ever given, I don't think it's about R&D. I think
I
it's
hope
about
not.
globalists versus everybody else. And
I
I think
hope people are
smart enough.
really waking up to that. And not just the Democrats have gone crazy.
No, here's what I would say. I'd say that the
I know that
lowest
there
level of normie, yes.
Yeah. I
Yes.
know that there are people who have woken up to it's actually globalists versus us all.
Yeah.
You know?
What I see is this. I see a threshing. Okay. You're always going to have low information voters. You're going to have low information voters on the left and on the right. There's a lot of low information voters on the right.
Sure.
Okay. There are.
Definitely.
Okay. There are people that still defend George Bush. That's sad. Okay. Like let's get real. There are people that still defend Obama. Oh, there's a lot of them that still defend Obama. What's funny is I've noticed that black Democrats are like, nah, he really sucked for us. No crap, Sherlock. He was no good. I was one of those that woke up halfway through it. I'm like, this guy sucks. He's hurting my business, you know? But what was I going to say? I think that there's low information on both sides, but I think the middle where people are like, wow, my local election means something now, especially when they tried to mask my kid up forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, Republican or Democrat. They tried to do that. Even in red states, they tried to mask your kid up. And then they tried to make me a domestic terrorist for showing up to my school board meeting and calling that crap out. Maybe my mayor is important because if my mayor is Mayor Demings from Orlando, he's going to try his best to buck Governor DeSantis and try to lock me down in Orlando. That's probably important. Gee golly, my state representatives are pretty important because now they get to determine what's going on with Roe versus Wade, and we just restricted. What did the law in Florida just went to 15 weeks for us, which still isn't. It should be abolished in our state, but it's better than it was before because we could still go up to second term or third term abortions right here in Florida. Now, I still think it's abominable, it's disgusting, and putrid, but it's a step in the right direction. I'll take some incrementalism to get rid of this crap eventually. You know what I mean? Totally down for it. But my elected Florida officials are super important in that now because they make that determination now. It's a legislative thing now. It's kind of important not to vote for D, and it's for my Florida representation.
It's true.
Right?
Roe v. That's an unintended consequence of Roe v. Wade. Is that now we're thinking locally again.
Yes, right. It's kind of important who my senators are, right? Rick Scott is he's a slimy rhino, but at least he kind of calls them on things from time to time. Marco Rubio is there's rumors about the subject I talked about earlier today, but he's kind of worthless in the Senate, but at least he checks the box when it's supposed to. You know what I mean? Not all the time, but at least it didn't sell us out for gun laws, but he did screw us on Ukraine. So it is what it is. So that's kind of important now. And it's really important who your governor is. It's really important. You got to know who your governor is. My governor didn't go with the narrative. My governor actually followed the science. My governor did not care that you called him a death DeSantis, and he laughed at you when the stats came out and less people were dying in one of the oldest states in the country. We have more old people that the corona should have killed off way more of us, but they didn't because we didn't follow your stupidity.
Well, we didn't send COVID patients into the nursing homes.
Yeah, that too.
That only accounts for what, I don't know, 40% of all COVID deaths.
Yeah.
Ah, darn.
We didn't kill our economy. Think about that. We didn't kill our economy. You're selling your house because guess what? Your house value is through the freaking roof right now here. Let's get real, right?
Yep.
My house is worth 100,000 more than it was when I bought it right now.
And you bought it like, what, a year or 2 years ago? 2 years ago.
2 years ago, less than 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Yeah, but JBN, not here in Michigan.
Yeah.
Well, Gretchen, you've got Gretchen Whitmer to think about with that. But my point is this, man, like, it's so important to understand on the local level who's dictating stuff. Who's your sheriff? Who's your sheriff? Your brother is so lucky. He's going to Polk County. He's got Grady Judd as his sheriff, where he's like, hey, if a robber comes to your house, do us a favor and put a bullet in him. That's how I like it. When the best was when Grady Judd, DeSantis had Grady Judd explain what a riot was versus a protest. He's like, this is a protest. And it's like happy, it's like people marching, whatever. This is a riot. And there's like fires and stuff like that from Ferguson and all that stuff like that. He's like, don't try that in Florida. We'll mess you up. I can get behind that. You know what I mean? That it's so important. Who's in leadership now? But I think that's what people are waking up to more than R&D, if that makes sense. Because, like, I'll give you an example. Val Demings is all over Florida right now, right? Mm-hmm. The wife of Demings, right? Mm-hmm. All I know is your husband tried to lock us down in Orlando. He tried his hardest to lock us down and buck DeSantis. You really think I want that representing me in the Senate? Kick rocks. Good luck. Which is funny because she's the only Democrat trying. Did you see the report that they kind of gave up on Florida? The Democrats gave up on Florida. They gave up.
Nikki Fried is out there trying to make things happen too. She's downing DeSantis at every turn to no avail.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at her Twitter feed and she says some ridiculous thing about DeSantis and it's just people blowing her up constantly.
Yeah. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you can't fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Right? That's how it goes. Did I pull that off better than George Bush? Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. This is a George Bush. I'm not gonna piss off some pure Republican like I did the last show. I went off on him. But let's get real. Like, you can't fool us anymore. Because if we put people in power that are idiots, it's on us now. So, to your point originally, Matt, is this judgment or is it reformation? I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's judgment on the jackasses. I think that's happening. I see that from a political standpoint. I see that from a Christian standpoint. Followers of Jesus Christ, the squishy, what does Steve Dace call them? The sweater vest, crease, khaki, skinny jean crowd is getting rocked on every level. Because you guys bent the knee to George Floyd. You bent the knee to freaking Rona. You've bent the knee to the LGBTQ 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever crew. And you keep bending the knee to everything. What's the new thing they're bending the knee to is abortion. Those people are getting threshed out, and those churches are dwindling. The churches that actually talk about Jesus are growing. We're growing, and we're stronger.
Yep.
It's a reality check. But, if you're a worshiper
in this time, though, should really be sensitive to people who, are grieving during this time. So maybe celebration is not the appropriate response to the end of Roe v. Wade. And limit. I mean, I'm pro-life. I'm pro-life.
But you're not.
But
you're not Gospel Coalition.
What's that?
That was literally Gospel Coalition. That's Gospel Coalition that said that. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know.
Gospel Coalition.
It's many people. I've seen that from many people.
Yeah.
It's garbage.
things said by squishy Christians that aren't really followers of Jesus Christ. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry. I don't have quarter for that. That's cute, but you're squishy. You know?
Like, no,
But
I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna celebrate the end of baby
baby
murder
murder.
in certain states. You know, because every state that stops this thing, that's a win.
All right, we better wrap the show up, man. It's getting late, man. We could go
Yeah,
on
well,
forever and ever, man.
we
I could
can,
rant forever.
we
I'm
can.
sorry. My bad, dude. You got any
Well,
final
you
thoughts?
have any? Yes, I do, and it's
Okay.
about abortion and the left or the globalists or whoever the enemy is. You know, let's put it this way: the enemy, and you can take that physically and spiritually. The enemy is really good at turning the tables. No matter what the situation is, they manipulate language and turn the tables on people like us. Roe v. Wade gets overturned. It's a victory for us. And yet, we're the ones, well, some of us are telling others not to, celebrate. But and then from the other side, it's defend your position. Oh, so now women with ectopic pregnancies are just gonna die because abortions are illegal. Well, first of all, abortion isn't illegal federally. The most of this noise is coming from people whose states haven't changed at all.
Yep.
But that's neither here nor there. An we can also go, the ectopic pregnancy has nothing to do with abortion.
It's not an abortion.
Never has, never will. Abortions
are
is one thing and one thing only: the extermination of a baby's life. That's it, right? An ectopic pregnancy,
100%.
the baby's dead. You can't kill what's already dead. Haven't you seen a zombie movie?
But somebody's in a meme that was killing a baby, even though the baby's already whatever.
Yes. There was a some celebrity, some like C-list celebrity that I'd never heard of, was talking about her own experience with an ectopic pregnancy, and she had to have an abortion. And it's basically the response is, woman, you didn't have an abortion. I'm sorry that somebody told you that and you thought you've had an abortion this whole time, but you didn't.
Yeah.
What you had was a procedure to clear the already dead baby from your body so that you didn't die.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Well, here's the other one that was my favorite was, what, are you going to ban miscarriages now? I'm like, baby's already dead. The baby's already dead.
Dummy. But here's my point as a final thought.
Yeah.
All of this is turning the tables so that they're still on offense and you're on defense.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. We don't have to defend ourselves.
Nope.
Their position is pro baby murder. And we're the ones who have to defend ourselves? Our point of view? No. F that. In every single way, they're the ones who have to defend their position. They don't want to defend their position, which is why they turned the tables so that to make you feel like you have to defend your position. When somebody comes at you with this stuff, and you go, oh no, let me explain. Did they win? No, because it's ridiculous. But also, yes, they did kind of win. Because they presented themselves as being righteously on the offensive. And you are reasonably on you're defensive, but your defense is reasonable. But the defense always looks weaker. It just does. You know? The country holed up in its castle looks weaker than... They may not be, but they look weaker than the giant army surrounding the castle and launching giant flaming rocks into it, you know? So they've won at least an optics victory in forcing you to defend yourself. The Chad way to defend yourself, the ultra MAGA way, is to say, your question is absurd, and I'm not going to defend it. I want babies to live, and you want them to die. I don't have to defend that. You defend your position. You are pro-baby murder, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Defend it. You can't. You're a monster. Good day, sir.
Yep.
And be on your way. And don't give it a second thought. You have nothing to defend. You are on the right. Your position is of the utmost moral superiority. Because it's God's position. The end. Period. Ivory Tower out.
Tower out. Here's my final thought, and I'm going to go with you. I disagree with you on one point. We're not even surrounded by a big horde. We're not.
True.
Any proof of that went away because, let's get real, they said they were going to riot in the streets and kill everybody and fight back. And I'm waiting for Jane's response or whatever this group is that threatened terror. Where are you at? Only thing I saw happen was the Georgia Guidestones get blown up. And the FBI activated another mass shooter in Illinois, which has the strictest gun laws, but that's another story for another time. But my point is this. I think that the polling, which was interesting, was the polling on abortion didn't move the needle for the left because they have an indefensible position, to Matt's point. You cannot defend killing babies and justifying any type of moral high ground, even with voters. You cannot do it because I think Elizabeth Warren said 70% of Americans are for abortion, and they found out like, no, that's not the case. Actually, 70% of Americans are against abortion. Most people are against it. The only concession they might give is rape and incest, but that's dwindling in popularity as the years go on because you're seeing people like me who are a product of rape, have 3 daughters and do some pretty cool things, and but that's another story for another time. But I will concur with your final thought with this, and I hate to steal it from Steve Dace. I'm watching way too much of him, and I'm over it, okay? I'm tired of him being right, because he is right about this. At no point in history... What?
You're so funny. I enjoy these guys who are popular, and I hate that I do, and...
Listen, I just hate the fact that... Listen, and they were doing this before Blaze, and it's smart for them to join up with Blaze. I just hate lining the pockets of Mormons. That's another story for another time, okay? I hate...
Okay, so if we get a call from the Blaze and they want us to do a show, we don't do it?
Glenn, I'll be there tomorrow. Okay, chill. All right.
I love you. I
Money
love you, buddy.
talks, bullcrap walks. Now, with that being said,
Oh god.
I ain't too proud to beg. I ain't too proud to beg. But here's my point. Um, I think Dace kind of hit it out of the park when he said this. At no point in history has the leave me alone crowd defeated religious fervor. It's
Yeah,
never
I heard
happened.
him say that. It's a good point.
And I was
Because
like,
I'm very much a leave me alone.
a
I
lot of
just
us
want to
are.
be left alone.
Listen, every libertarian is leave me alone. That doesn't work. It just doesn't. Because you have to have a moral constitution and a moral base to be left alone. The reality of the situation is every time you say leave me alone and get off my lawn, JBN, I love that. Get off my lawn, they keep showing up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying be aggressive or whatever, but here's the deal. Everybody's like, "Oh, every year Pride month gets worse and worse." Because none of you are pushing back. None
Mm-hmm.
of you are calling this out. Remember, this was supposed to be like, "Oh, it's listen, we just need this guy to be able to have gay marriage, even though marriage is an institution instituted by God for a man and a woman." Okay, same-sex mirage is just that; it's a mirage.
What about
Nobody pushed back.
hospital visitations?
Yeah, yeah. So it's about hospital visitations and the will and blah blah blah, which is interesting because you can put anybody in your will. You don't have to be married to them to put them in a will. Like that. That was the dumbest argument I ever heard. But guess what? We had Bush in power and all the Rhino Republicans in charge that let this happen. Oh, oh, the
But
slippery
but
slope. What a silly idea. And now we're
but
trying to
but I
battle
just want to
pedophiles.
walk naked down the street in front of children. That's it.
Exactly.
That's it.
Because you were warned about the slippery slope, and now it's upon you because you wanted to be leave me alone. Well, if we just give them this, they'll leave us alone. Well, if we just give them this, they'll leave us alone. Well, if we just give them this, we'll leave them alone. If we just let the British tax us to death, they'll leave us alone. If we just leave Hitler alone, he'll leave those nice Jews alone. Hey, listen, if we just keep conceding to the Soviet Union, they'll leave us alone. Hey. And I know that that's virtuous in our society nowadays, but what happened to you guys? Did your balls fall off? And I hate to keep referring to the Dark Knight, but I have to because that just is what it is. You guys keep conceding to this. At some point, you got to make some decisions. And what's funny is a lot of you that are complaining about this, your kids go to public schools. And I don't mean to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy. Quit bitching to me about your kid being in public school and seeing all this when you're not defending that. Well, my teacher and my principal, they don't push that on their kid. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. You're not there. You don't see this stuff. Listen, I send my kids to a Christian school, and I love my Christian school that I send my kids to. But I've walked up into the high school and seen some stuff that I'm not about. And I literally ripped that stuff off the wall. I saw a quote from Sotomayor, Justice Sotomayor, for Hispanic Heritage Month at our school, and I ripped that crap off the wall. I saw an AOC quote, and I ripped it off the wall. Now, can I protect every single thing that happens? Because guess what? In Christian schools, you let some liberal quote unquote Christians in there, and there are a lot of Christians in the dark that are out there. Okay, I saw a CRT sign from the same teacher. Now, thank God it's the same teacher. My kid's not going to that teacher at all. Okay, same teacher had Tanahashi Coates up on the Black History thing. I ripped that down too, and I probably pissed that teacher off. And they're like, "What keeps happening to these people?" Maybe the teacher will eventually look up who these slapdicks are and not put them in any sphere of anything just because of where you want to idolize what race. Okay, but my point is this: the moment that any of these schools start doing this to your kids, walk. Homeschool your kids. Me and my wife threaten that all the time. If the Christian school we send our kids to, ever goes woke on any level, we're walking. We're walking. They already felt the nuclear heat when they try to put masks and face diapers on my kids. Okay, they felt it on a regular basis. We made it very uncomfortable for them, and it was hilarious. I enjoyed every stinking moment of it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of the situation is this: you put the heat on these people because they won't leave you alone. They won't let you not wear a mask. You have to force it on in their freaking face and jam them and say, "No, I'm not wearing your stupid face diaper. I'm not doing that." I did that at my work. I went to a work thing last week. That's why I wasn't on the show. And every person that was in my team that I haven't physically really seen in 2 years because we've been running from COVID came up to me and they're like, "Man, I didn't realize how conservative our group was until you started calling it face diapers and playing Mimic all the time." And I was jamming it right back into my manager's face like, "This is stupid." To the point where the company's like, "Yeah," because we have a global company, but here's the deal. Spoiler alert: we have those strong dealings in Saudi Arabia. So let's just say that certain woke things don't fly in our company. Okay, they didn't lock down in Saudi Arabia or Dubai. I hate to break it to you. So they couldn't really push that hard because guess what? They're people with conviction pushing back. And I hate to say that a bunch of Muslims forced that and some, let's get real. They put an office in Florida, so you knew that pushback was coming from us too. But let's get real. You got to push back because they're not going to leave you alone. They won't. If I'm like, "Oh, maybe I won't talk about Jesus, they'll leave me alone." No, that's when you talk about Jesus more. Maybe if I just don't call out the LGBTQ456. No, 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 no. Call it out. It's disgusting. I don't want pedophilia on my kids.
But love is love, Ray.
You listen. That same argument could be water is water, so start drinking out of a toilet. If that's the case, water is water, right? Drink out of a toilet, drink out of sewage. It's the same. It's water's water. Bullcrap. It's not.
Well, if love is love, what's wrong with rape or incest?
That's true. Exactly right. What's wrong with pedophilia? Right? So, I mean, this is the thing that you got to understand. These arguments are stupid. Jam them back and push them back. I'm sorry. And I hate to quote this, but everybody loves Jesus meek and mild, but they forget about Jesus who turned over tables. They forget about that Jesus. Everybody says, "Oh, Romans 13, Romans 13, you gotta bend to whatever is told," right? Paul even said that. But what's funny is Paul always got beaten, stoned, or kicked out of the cities he went into. So apparently he wasn't following the civil authority too well. And don't even let me bring up Nehemiah. He went postal on his brothers and sisters who were banging foreign wives. He slapped the piss out of them. He enjoyed it. And guess what? It wasn't a sin to him. In fact, freaking it was not Ezekiel, but who was the judge at the time? Oh, that's gonna drive me. Ezra. Ezra gave him the thumbs up. Like, yeah, I'm glad he did it. Because it woke people up. You're gonna have to slap back. Does that mean you fist fight somebody? No. But you don't bow down just because they're threatening you. Okay. Do your worst. But I'm not kneeling before this idol, Nebuchadnezzar. Throw me in the fiery furnace. Watch my God take over. But guess what? Leave me alone. Stay off my lawn. Never works in history. That's my final thought. Send us home, baby.
On that note, you've been watching Plausible Foolishness, the home of the Rube Empire, where the people are free, the taxes are voluntary, and we serve freshly roasted liberal logic every Thursday, usually at 7:30 p.m., right here on twitch.tv/plausiblepoolishness, YouTube, Facebook Live, anywhere you can get a podcast, and we recommend that you go to the podcast. That's where you can best support us. So tell your friends. Yes, that's where the magic is. And we're also on Twitter and Truth Social. We hope you have a great night. And we'll see you next week. Peace out. God bless. Later.